bakit siya, wala naman siya pinag-aralan. Siyempre, masasama yung loob ko. Magkakalkayo lang, buti talaga mag-aaway tayo.
Eto, si Caleb, anak ng di. Uy, pre.
Uy, yung ginagawa mo dito?
Anong ginagawa? Alis tayo bukas.
Ha? Saan tayo pupunta?
Cavite.
Oo nga pala.
Pati nga ng phone mo.
Oo.
Kaya naman pala eh.
Bakit? 101 stories about revolution ito. Magandang pamagat ng article ito, medyo malalim nga lang. Kasi mahirap hanapin to sa Google, puro may bayad. And yung mga history article, pero maangas yan. Tungkol sa revolution, galing sa mga iba't ibang tao at sundalo.
Napakaseryoso mo naman dito. Ano ba laman nito? Taliano Gold?
Ito nga ng gold. Hindi, ito yung simpleng article pare. Isa itong mahalagang susi sa ating history report.
Kilala mo ba yung article na yan? Mukhang fanatic ka sa kanya.
If I can remember correctly, the author of this book is Ambet R. Ocampo, born in August 13, 1961 in Manila. He was a chairman of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines and a National Commission for Culture and the Arts from 1987 to 1992 and served as a consultant in the National Library of the Philippines. He made this document as a research about what are the tactics used during the American-Filipino dispute. He wrote a book about the 101 stories on the Philippine Revolution in 2009 as a way to teach Filipino historical savvies about the stories and life during the two main Philippine Revolution. O, tingnan mo. Check mo pa.
Ano kinalaman to sa history report natin?
Meron dito tungkol sa Memoirs of Revolution. No? O, ito. Pakita ko sa'yo.
Nga. Memoirs of Revolution, baka haka-haka mo lang yan sa internet.
Haka. Legit pre, nandito yung mga entes nung hinirang na bayani natin. Ay no. Oh.
Sino naman tong bayani na palagi mong minamatyagan?
Hindi mo kilala? Hindi mo kilala si Emilio Aguinaldo, ang batang presidente ng Pilipinas? Tingnan mo, ayun yung mukha niyo.
Emilio Aguinaldo? Di ba siya yung batang presidente na sumuko sa mga Amerikano? Di naman talaga bayani yun eh.
Sumuko sa Amerikano. Did you know that in this book, Mr. Ocampo mentioned Emilio Aguinaldo, a former military tactician, politician, and a revolutionist, who was first recognized as the first youngest Filipino president and the president of a constitutional republic of Asia. Oh, yun o, legit. Oh.
Meron ka bang ibang detalye dyan kay parang Aguinaldo mo?
Paano Aguinaldo? Oh, bukas. Konti lang ang kaalaman ko tungkol kay Aguinaldo. Yeah, yun lang. Yun
Sige, bukas sa biyahe, tuloy natin yan.
Oh, sige, bukas. Tutuloy na.
Yeah. No.
Ay.
Hawakan mo ang kamay ko at dadalhin kita sa naman gusto. Akong magsisilbing gabay mo.
A little known history about him was during the American Revolution. He was captured in his secret headquarters in Palanan at the northern part of Luzon and took oath of allegiance with the United States. But during World War II, he came back as a presidential candidate, but suddenly lost. Aguinaldo was used as a war propaganda against the Japanese Imperial Army, that he was anti-American and proposed speeches and articles. But later on, he addressed a radio appeal for General Douglas MacArthur and retaken Manila in 1945. But Emilio Aguinaldo was later on arrested for accusations of siding with the Imperial Japanese, and later on released in 1950s as he appointed former President Emilio Quirino as a member of the Council of State, which was a really good ending to a treacherous part of his life. But now let's just focus on what it is during the revolutions that the Filipino heroes such as Aguinaldo, Rizal, and Bonifacio did.
So, luwag pa siya.
Di naman sa duwag siya, sumuko na siya dahil sa lack of resources nila.
Sige, kaya pala sa ibang articles na binabasa ko, luwag daw tao sa kanya.
Tuloy natin yung usapan natin pagbaba para makakuha pa tayo ng ibang inspiration.
Sa aking kamay, handang ibigay lahat ng naisin mo para sa ating paglalakbay. Ang kamay, sa aking ibigay, hindi ka bibitawan saan man mapunta ang biyahe natin dalawa.
shotties, bro. Meron dito sa may kawit, just to remind you maraming hot shotties dun, pare.
Uy pare, I'm just helping my friend bro. May natin sa nila sa tawin.
Okay, cool. You might want to visit the parts of the Cavite because there's a lot of history here. Sheesh!
Alright, do you know where exactly happened, right? Hindi ko hindi na malaman tungkol kay Emilio Aguinaldo.
Give it to me, bro. Just take a ride into the Aguinaldo shrine. Shit's bad. They're treating it like a museum and I've got that firepower to see.
Oh, thanks bro.
No problem, bro. Just let me know if you find some art to shot this, bro. Just call me.
Kilala ko pa tayo. Sige dati, kilala siya sa pagkano. Ayan. Okay bro. Mga ba nababasan ko?
Hi guys.
I continue with the discussion of the memoirs. Aguinaldo has some top challenges written in his diary. Most of his entries were his own bloody battle against the Spanish troops in his own country. In Cavite, Aguinaldo went to Himagsikan to receive a note that his hometown was robbed. He arrived at the said area and he started his army just to make sure that anyone in the faction never mentioned about this kind of thing. The operation has begun and he requested the troops to stay low and remain quiet, even though the enemies were throwing everything that they got, barrage after barrage. They were able to quickly trick the opponent by making them vulnerable to Aguinaldo's troops, killing all the Spanish army. Noted in his diary that one of the casualties involved in the recent battle were General Ernesto de Aguirre and Gravi Sable de Mando. He wasn't able to catch General Aguirre, and Aguinaldo declared the first victory of the Philippine independence. In the second part of the battle, which took place in Himagsikan, as Aguinaldo led his troops to victory, he was able to defeat both Aguirre and the captain of the Spanish army that was also killed in action declared in his first bloodiest battle ever recorded to his diary. It was later on declared that the province of Cavite is now free from the Spanish hands according to this. He was both in shock on how brutal war is in its perspective of Philippines, but at the same time relieved because he finally set his own hometown and province free from Spaniards. And that is the Battle of Imus.
Kaya pala magaling siyang tactician.
Tinalo
Tinalo niya, pinatigil niya yung mga Tagalog at mga Amerikano eh.
In continuation of the liberation of Cavite, he acknowledged the two councils of Andres Bonifacio of Magdiwang Council and Baldomero Aguinaldo, a leader of Magdalo Council, and a cousin of Emilio Aguinaldo. Two rivaling councils agreed on terms of freeing Aguinaldo's hometown of Cavite. Aguinaldo was aware about what is going to happen in the Tejeros Convention, as he was informed that the people who were present in the convention were confused as to why Bonifacio suggested this assembly and want to unify the factions between Magdalo and Magdiwang turned into a heated dispute in the event. Aguinaldo was hesitant to leave his post and take oath to the president of the independent Philippines. He declined. A few hours had passed and his brother, General Crispullo Aguinaldo, personally went to take over his post in Pasong Santol and pledged to defend it with his life. They convinced him to leave Pasong Santol and go to the hacienda in Tejer. They arrived, but the entire convention was moved to a new location in Santa Cruz de Malabon because Bonifacio ordered to close the hacienda with all of the elected officials except Ricarte and Bonifacio were there. General Ricarte arrived but was on the fence, which he does not want to take oath, but eventually persuaded by Secretario Diego de Rios. Ano nga nalaman ni Bonifacio at dahil sa function nila na kumokontrol sa mga munisipyo ng Cavite, kaya nagkaganyan sila, parang 60-40 kay Baldomero. Ang pinakamarami kaysa kay Bonifacio.
Anong reason kung bakit sila nag-away?
Dahil silang dalawa ay may kaunting argumento tungkol sa pagrespeto sa dalawang membro ng mga faction. Kaya lahat sila ay mainit ang mga ulo sa isa't isa.
So, may kapatid lang.
Depende, kasi si Aguinaldo ay nasa gitna ng awayan ng dalawa. Kaya mahirap sa kanya kung saan siya pipili.
Okay.
In the remaining part of Aguinaldo's diary end was all about his life until he was a presidential candidacy for the first time. At that time, there was a gap between Aguinaldo's cousin and his friend Andres Bonifacio, a two opposite factions between relationship of a friend against a blood-related cousin.
Guys, welcome to the Aguinaldo Shrine. Beside me is museum guide here sa Aguinaldo Shrine.
Bali, my name is Leon Alea. I am the museum guide for the Museo ni Emilio Aguinaldo.
So my first question po, what happened during his time of arrest in 1901 when he was captured by the Americans?
So, General Emilio Aguinaldo was actually going north. When the war started with the Americans in 1899, nag-decide si General Emilio Aguinaldo na mamundok. So, para magkaroon sila ng guerrilla warfare. And pumunta sila pa north hanggang makarating sila ng Gulane, Isabela. And they had a headquarters there. Magkaroon sila ng headquarters doon. And yung mga Amerikano na tumutugis sa kanila who were after them, actually connived with the locals, especially sa mga Macamiates spots of Pampanga. They were the ones who helped the Americans para ma-capture si General Emilio Aguinaldo. When Aguinaldo was captured there by the Americans, dinala din siya sa Malacanang. So he stayed there for about a month until he was forced by the Americans to sign a paper wherein parang he took oath of allegiance to America kahit masama sa loob niya. Of course, nahuli na siya, natalo na siya. So, parang he had no other choice but to do that. Shortly after, he was released. He went back here to Kawit. He stayed here until the rest of his life. When he came back here in 1901, right after he was released, he was actually under house arrest. Parang matagal pa din yung time na parang nagtiwala din sa kanyang Americans para tanggalin yung mga guards din sa house.
What is the reason behind Aguinaldo's so-called betrayal on Bonifacio and what happened after Bonifacio was executed?
Yan ang medyo mahaba akong story. During the Tejeros Convention, Andres Bonifacio was the one who presided during the election. Emilio Aguinaldo was not able to attend the meeting because Aguinaldo was actually out. He was preparing for a battle in Pasong San Torres, Marion Ribano. And so only a few Mandalo members came to the convention. And during the elections, given that most of the members there were from the Magdiwang faction under the Alvarezes, and the Alvarezes were actually, they had a relationship with Andres Bonifacio kasi si Gregorio de Jesus was him, parang pamangkin ng mga Alvarezes si Gregorio de Jesus. Although, yun yung situation during that time dun sa Tejeros Convention, Andres Bonifacio was nominated for all the positions, no? Pero sadly, nanalo si Aguinaldo for the presidency. And then si Bonifacio naman, the time that he was elected was during the time when he was, parang na-nominate siya for Director of Interior. Kaso, ang hindi pumayag doon sa election niya na yun ay si General Daniel Villaterona. Siya yung nag-oppose doon sa election ni Andres Bonifacio as Director of Interior. Kasi parang sinasabi niya, bakit siya wala naman siya pinag-aralan. Kahit ako, kung ako yung nasa posisyon niya, syempre masasama yung loob ko. Magkakaroon tayo ng gulo, talaga mag-aaway tayo. So, what happened was, nagkaroon sila ng sagutan ni Daniel Villaterona, and then Andres Bonifacio walked out of the convention. And then nagpunta sila ng Naik area. And then nandun na sila sa Naik area, nagkaroon sila doon na pagtitipon wherein sinubukan nilang gumawa ng panibagong katipunan aside from the revolutionary government na na-establish na nila during the Tejeros Convention. During that, kumukuha sila ng suporta sa mga taga-Naik and Maragondon area, but the thing is, wala silang makuha ng support. Yung dahilan, hindi natin alam, but possible kasi people does not know Andres Bonifacio, kaya hindi siya makakuha ng support. And then, siguro out of frustration din of Andres Bonifacio, there was this incident wherein nanulog sila ng mga bahay para nagkaroon ng martial sa Naik and Maragondon para lang makuha nila yung mga pangangailangan nila, makuha nila yung support ng mga tao na nakatira doon. At dahil dun sa mga kaguluhan na nangyayari doon, yung revolutionary government na inangtatag, they were the ones who created a council, Consejo de Guerra, the Council of War, para sila yung kumausap, umayos ng nagiging gulo doon sa Maragondon area. It was in this time that the council arrested the Bonifacio brothers. So, nung na-arrest yung Bonifacio brothers, nilitis sila sa Marabundod, kaya meron tayo ng Bonifacio Trial House, and they were found guilty of treason, pagtataksil sa bayan. Ang naging pagpataw ng verdict sa kanila is kamatayan. Yung Consejo de Guerra, ibinigay nila yung mga papel na yun kay General Emilio Aguinaldo. And reading the verdict, hindi siya pumayag na mamatay yung magkapatid. So, ang sinuggest niya sa council ay mapatapon lang sa Pico del Oro sa Batangas ang magkapatid at hayaan na sila doon. But, yung Council of War, sinabi nila kay General Aguinaldo na kung hindi natin isa-serve yung verdict, maaring ganun lang ulit yung gawin nila. Bubuo sila ng panibagong patipunan, hahati yung ating puwersa, so dalawa yung kakalabanin natin. Meron tayong isang kakalabanin na nag-aalsa ng mga Pilipino laban sa revolutionary government, and then meron pa tayong isang kalaban which is mga Placido. And so, anong nangyari? Pinirmahan ni Aguinaldo.
The last question is, in the Tejeros Convention, what was the intention of Bonifacio that set off a disagreement on both factions of Magdiwang and Magdiwang?
I think it's not the disagreement. It's more like, they were doing okay. But siguro, may mga ilang instances kasi wherein makikita natin dun sa mga pangyayari na sunod-sunod na somehow there is this parang, hindi ko kasi masabi kung naiingit siya or maybe masama yung loob niya because he was in Cavite during that time. So, most of the people here were actually believing in Aguinaldo. So, mas pinagtiwalaan nila kasi nga Caviteño siguro. But during the war kasi, si Bonifacio, umiiwas siyang tumulong dun sa tropa ng mga Magdalo. One good example is that nagkaroon ng labanan noon sa Pasang Santol sa Dasmariñas. And si General Emilio Aguinaldo supposedly was the one na dapat nandun para mag-lead. Kaya lang, tinawag siya para manumpa as president for the first revolutionary government sa bansa. Dahil doon, pinalitan siya ng brother niya. So yung brother niya si Crispolo Aguinaldo, siya yung nag-stay doon. So nung nakapanumpa na si Aguinaldo, humingi siya ng tulong sa mga Magdiwang faction from Andres Bonifacio. Natulungan yung kapatid niya na for sure baka matalo dahil marami ang pwersa ng mga Kastila na darating sa Pasang Santol Dasmariñas. Yung mga sundalo na hindi nakarating kasi hinarang ng tropa nila Emilio Duterte, tapos pinayagan din ni Andres Bonifacio. So ending, namatay doon yung brother ni Emilio Aguinaldo sa Pasang Santol. So sa intention, hindi natin totally talaga masabi kung ano yung intention ni Andres Bonifacio or ano ba yung balak niya para sa Cavite. But let's all say na lang na all our heroes, they actually wanted the best for our country. They wanted the freedom for every one of us, for the next generation. Whatever it was that they did, or whatever the decision was during the war, during that time, was a product of parang what was there. Kung ano yung parang sa tingin nila tama at sa tingin nila kailangan gawin. Maraming puwis ng buhay, marami din naging kasalanan, maraming naging sa kanila rin mismo sa loob ng rango. But then, lahat yun kasi parang kinailangan mangyari para maabot natin kung ano yung kalayaan natin na natatamasa ngayon. Hindi ko masagot yung yung intention. But I know that each and every one of them had that intention for us to be here. Pero yung naging problema nila, direct nila with the Matador Magdiwang faction, for me is still not clear. Maybe they had their differences with the beliefs, but sa labanan kasi, andun pa rin naman sila para sa isa't isa. May mga times lang siguro dun sa ating history na yung personal differences, hindi nila na-set aside para matulungan yung isa't isa during the war here in Cavite.
So, what a wonderful present to all of the questions. And anyway, thank you so much for having us interview po about kay Emilio Aguinaldo and this museum.
Okay.
We learned so much about it.
Okay, you're welcome.
In that contribution of the document, understanding the narrative of Philippine history shows us that this memoir of the revolution reminds us of the details and events that happened during the Spanish colonization, and we are able to know what some key factors happened during the election inside the Tejeros Convention. The relevance of the articles in contemporary times. It is to remind us of what happened during the revolution against the Spaniards and the Americans, and to know the value of unity, whether whether our opinions are not the same, we still have to be united as one and to know what are the sacrifices that our fellow Filipinos on how they achieve our own freedom and independence up to this day.
Ha? Pagkatas natin magbayad.
Ano?
Tsaka ka mag-DJ.
Hi guys.
Anong pangalan niya? Leave it to me, bro. Just take a ride and you'll see Aguinaldo's mansion. Shit's best in there, bro.